Hey, gorgeous. Welcome to the Ready to Bloom podcast, which features interviews with inspiring women entrepreneurs from around the world. Thank you so much for joining us today. Now, without further ado, I'll hand you over to your host, Holly Wharton.
Hello and welcome to the Ready to Bloom podcast, episode 121. This is your host, Holly Wharton. I'm here with today's special guest, Jo Casey, who's joining us for the second time. Jo is a certified life coach, trainer, and coach mentor. She's British, slightly nerdy, and allergic to the marketing bullshit in the coaching industry. I love this.
I'm so sorry I made you swear on your podcast.
Oh, I do swear on my podcast. It's fine. She's the founder of JoCasey.com. She's a podcaster, she's a speaker, and a writer for the Coaching Blueprint, Mind, Body, Green, and Tiny Buddha. Welcome, Jo.
Hello. Do you know, I think this is the third time you've had me on because there was one where I interviewed you.
Yes. So this is the second interview where I interview you, and the third time total. So welcome. Thank you so much for coming back on. I'm really excited to have you back.
Oh, I'm excited to be here.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about how your business has changed since we last spoke? Because it's gone through quite a big transition.
Yeah, it has. Well, when we last spoke, my whole focus was around work happy was my kind of tagline. And so I worked with people who were wanting to boost their resilience. So they tended to be working in quite tough and demanding jobs. So lots of people in the public sector and in healthcare, some entrepreneurs, but who were challenged around kind of managing stress and managing difficult situations and still wanted to be able to go in and do a really good job. And that had been my focus for a number of years. And then around about 12 months ago, I pivoted and I'm now working as a coach mentor. I do coach mentoring and biz building for nice people who want to make a difference and a great living at the same time. So yes, that's what I do. Quite different.
So what sparked that change? Because I think a lot of our listeners, and myself included, I mean, my business has been through so many different incarnations over the last few years, we feel that things are starting to change. We feel like business needs to change, but it's so scary to let go of the current business and welcome in something new. So what was that process like for you?
Well, it's terrifying. I have to say, it really was. But for me, what had happened is I hired a coach. I signed on with Tora Gentili, who is kind of business strategist. And because I knew that I was hitting some blocks in my business, I wanted to grow it, but I kind of didn't want to grow it as well. And I was just kind of unsure as to which direction and what I should be doing next. I have a real aversion to this kind of, you need to get yourself out there and hustle type messages that a lot of us in entrepreneur land are given. And I didn't like getting my ass out there and hustling. It didn't feel good. That I wanted to find if there was a better way. And Tara is amazing when it comes to strategy, playing to your strengths and doing what suits you and what comes easiest. And so one of the exercises that she takes people through is looking at, well, where is your income coming from? And what aspects of your business are you finding draining and what are you finding energizing? And what I found when I looked at that is I'd always, or for certainly the past kind of 7 or 8 years, really worked with coaches. So sometimes coaches would approach me, as I'm sure they probably do you as well, and say, well, can you just tell me and share with me what you're doing? Because you seem to be doing quite well at this and I'm just starting out. But also I am a massive nerd when it comes to coaching. I have a master's degree in coaching and, I'm always doing various courses and developing my skills. And so one of the things that I did, I didn't even really class it as part of my business because it just came so naturally and easily, was I ran coach training courses, primarily within organisations. So quite a few organisations in my local area had got in touch and said, we're here quite good at this. Would you put together a programme for us? Would you run a coach training programme? And so I was running these kind of 6-month accredited coach training programmes, but I wasn't marketing them. I wasn't, promoting them or anything. People just rang me up and asked if I would do them. So I did. And I really enjoyed it because I love working with coaches and, they are my people because I'm a massive nerd when it comes to this type of stuff. So when I was explaining all this to Tara and also looking at where my income was coming from, actually half my income was coming from those types of activities. And I was really energized by doing that. And working with people around resilience, even though I was very passionate about it, it's quite draining after a while. It's tough work because you're working with people who are going through some heavy stuff, who are stressed out, who are quite often at the stage where, they may be in a profession, say they're a nurse or they are a teacher, and they're finding work extremely tough, but they don't want to go off and do something else. So it's a lot of kind of walking alongside people where they're going through some fairly stressful and dark times. Takes it out of you after a while. And I've been doing that for about 4 years, and it got to the point where I didn't feel I was bringing my best to it.
Mm-hmm.
And I just kind of reached this impasse with it. And so when because Tara's quite direct, and she said, "Well, you be a coach for life coaches then." I was like, "What?
Can I do that?"
Yeah. And then I think the fear kicked in because I'd spent, 2 or 3 years building up this business all around work happy, resilience, and I had built my mailing list with blood, sweat, and tears, and it had been such hard work. And I had this audience, and it felt like I was then going to have to start all over again and turn my back on that audience, and that felt really scary. And I'm sure you can relate to some of those things.
I'm not doing social media anymore. I'm doing this weird mindset, belief changing thing. You understand. So what was the process like for you? Did you just kind of stop what you were doing, rebrand your website, and then go, "Hey, this is the new me"?
I sort of did this in-betweeny thing at first. So I changed my opt-in to something called, at the time, which is called the Map of You. So I went from, I think I had 10 ways to manage your stress at work. I'd been my opt-in to something called the Map of You, which was around exploration. Because one of the things that Tara Gentili had reassured me, she said, "You'll be surprised at how much of your current audience come with you." So I did a survey to find out how many of them were coaches and how many of them were considering going into coaching or had an interest in that type of area. And about a quarter of them did, which was more than I was expecting. And then, so I changed my opt-in to this kind of what I thought was a kind of a middling thing. So it could be, helping people to move away from stress, but into more kind of personal development-y type stuff. And then I went into free-fall panic. Just absolute free-fall panic, and just thinking, "Oh my God, how could I do this? How could I?" And I did very little for probably about 2 months. I was maintaining my current kind of client roster, but I wasn't taking on any new clients in terms of coaching. I was still doing my coach training work, but I was reducing the amount of kind of resiliency workshops and things that I was doing. And I was in a panic. I was in a big kind of, holy, what am I going to do? And then I decided to kind of get a grip, and I decided I needed a kind of reboot and to properly give myself a chance to see if this could work. So what I did is I decided I would do a month of free sessions for coaches to see if I liked it, to see if I was any good at it, and just to kind of test out the market, if you like, because I thought that coaches would really want stuff around their confidence and how to be confident enough to get themselves out there. And so I did this month of free sessions, which was fabulous. I would recommend it heartily. In fact, I do recommend it heartily to all of my clients, because it's a fantastic way of exploring a new market and go into something with a sense of play and curiosity, because there's no pressure. You're not trying to close any deals or sell your services. I discovered I loved working with coaches, absolutely loved it. And what I was amazed at is I was really good at strategy. Who would have thought it? Because I spent all of this time, trying to work out how to build a business. And so absorbing all of these strategies and taking every course I could get my hands on and reading every book. And I realised that I'd obviously, absorbed lots and lots of that information, but that is also a lot easier to apply it as an outsider to someone else's business than it is when you're trying to deal with all your own kind of mindset stuff that you've got yourself. And I found that I loved it, really found it energizing, and enjoyed this kind of back and forth, dance in the moment, brainstorming with people. I also discovered that yes, coaches many of them needed help with things like confidence and things like mindset. But actually, the most pressing issue for them was, how can I get some clients and some money in the door? Because otherwise, I'm going to have to stop doing this and go back to my day job, or I'm never going to be able to leave my day job. And I don't think I can keep on at this pace just doing the evenings and weekends because I'm exhausted here.
Yeah.
And I thought, I can help with that. I've been through that. I know how that works.
And I've come out the other side now.
And so I had this aim that I would do 30 sessions in 30 days, and I ended up doing 37 because I messed up the technology and didn't realise that I could put a limit on how many sessions. So I went to bed. I put up this kind of this message within my kind of communities and groups and things with a link to my online scheduler. And I think when I went to bed, because obviously I'm in the UK, I kind of went to bed and I think I'd had 24 slots taken, which I thought brilliant. And I woke up the next day and 37 had gone, because obviously the US and the Australian crowds had jumped on it as well. So yeah, after about 24 hours, I closed it and I had 37 sessions booked up.
Excellent.
And from that, I only had 2 people not show up. One person actually emailed me to say, I'm so sorry. One person just didn't show up at all. And I got a bunch of great testimonials from that work. I got a huge confidence boost. I got an amazing insight into what this group of people really wanted. And so, I knew the types of language I needed to use. I knew the types of struggles they were facing. I could design services and solutions around that. It was absolutely brilliant. Best thing I ever did for my business. I'd heartily recommend it.
I love that, because so many people say, don't give your time away for free. Stop doing freebies. When you do your free 30-minute discovery session, it shouldn't be coaching. It should be just kind of a sales conversation. So I think it's really, really good to see the value that you can get from breaking that rule and using it to get really valuable information. Do you like working with this client group? How can you help them? Did you enjoy it? What kind of results did they get? What were the overlying themes of the stuff that was coming up for them?
Yeah. And I think in any other industry, the idea of testing out a product before you take it to market is just kind of bog standard. That's just
normal.
Yeah, it's normal. But in coaching, we don't be doing that.
Yeah.
And I also think if you're starting out or if you're an emerging coach, the most important thing that you can do, the most valuable thing that you can do, is clarify your message and understand who you are as a coach and what your particular kind of skill set is. And you only get that through doing the coaching. And so if you put on the brakes and say, well, I'm only going to charge people for working with me kind of prematurely, then you don't get to do that. You don't get to grow into your skills and your talent. You don't get to get that really deep understanding of yourself, as well as getting that deep understanding of your clients. So I'm actually a big fan of doing free sessions when you're starting out, particularly if you do it in a kind of quite an intensive block like that. And you know what else? Some of those clients actually turned into paying clients. That's how I got my first paying coaching clients, as coaches.
And you get testimonials.
Yes. So that was something that I decided, because obviously I'd heard all that advice as well, don't give away for free. And I thought, well, I'm not giving it away. It's an energy exchange. And so what I'm getting is valuable information from people, because I'm getting to, see inside their heads and help them. I'm getting to test out whether I'm any good at that. So I get to explore, because actually I might be rubbish at this. We don't know yet. But I also want a testimonial. So one of the things that I think it's quite important to put those parameters on it. So I said to people, in exchange for an hour of my time, and this is bona fide coaching, this is not pitching, this is not, then in exchange for that, then all I ask for is a testimonial, assuming that you're happy with it. And, and then later on, I was I would get braver and ask people if they had referrals for me. Anybody else that you think would be good for me to work with. And then as I've kind of refined the process now, when I'm, because this is one of the things I do recommend a lot with my clients is, and actually then at the end of that conversation, there's nothing wrong with asking for the business. If you think that they would be a really good fit and you would be excited to work with them, just say that. There's so much stuff around, sales, which I think overcomplicates a lot. I mean, I know there are some great strategies and there are some amazing sales trainers out there. I'm not kind of dismissing that, but the basis of it comes for saying, you know, I think I could really help you with this. Would you like to work with me?
Yeah.
And for a lot of people starting out as well, that's the biggest hurdle, is making the ask. So just getting used to that.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, free sessions I'm a massive fan of them.
I love that you said that. So, Jo, when you're working with your clients, what are your top tips on how to get coaching clients without all of that hustle?
Oh yes,
Because the hustle can just feel, ugh.
One of the things that my coach says to me sometimes is she kind of checks out what kind of mindset I'm in. Particularly if I'm kind of launching something, or and she kind of says, "Jo, are you in hustle mode right now?" And I kind of, yeah. And if I'm in hustle mode, that's never a good energy. For me, hustle mode is that kind of push.
Yeah.
I'm really wanting to kind of, there's a tightness there, and I don't find that good things generally come from that place of tightness. I mean, obviously my background's working with people around stress and resilience. I find hustle is right up there with, you know, hustling for approval and not feeling good enough, and it's not a great energy to be coming out.
Yeah, it's just push. It's desperate. It's, I need more.
Absolutely. And desperate is creepy. Needy is creepy. It repels people away from you. So it's kind of the worst energy to be bringing to it. The first thing that I do with clients is we spend time focusing on what they bring to the table as a coach, because it can feel sometimes like you are lost in this sea of, you know, every person and their dog is a coach. Sometimes it feels like, particularly if you hang out in certain groups on Facebook and things like that. And it's really about digging deep and almost unearthing and uncovering what are the unique things that you bring to the table, that in that combination that only you have makes you absolutely unique. So that will be things like your skills, your beliefs, your passions, your values, but also your experience, your philosophy on things, and helping people to, rather than emulate what they're seeing other people do, start to really tap into that core of authenticity. And I think authenticity is a really overused word in our industry as well, because a lot of it seems to me like a faux authenticity. You know, it's like that story that came out last year that was it Starbucks was actually behind some of these kind of local, supposedly authentic, independent coffee houses. They were actually kind of not fronts for Starbucks, but they'd been set up by Starbucks kind of to test out new products and things like that. And so, you know, or sometimes if you go to, I know particularly in the UK, we have these pubs that they're kind of put up what seems like almost overnight, and you go in and it's like it's all reclaimed wood and it's things that's been taken from ancient Irish farmhouses put together by some huge monolithic brand. It's like this faux authenticity. And actually authenticity is about having opinions sometimes. It's about not trying to be something that you're not, and it's about really playing to your strengths, because everything's easier when that's almost like the opposite of hustle to me.
Yes.
So that's kind of one piece of it. And then the other piece is working out who you do your best work with. Because within coaching particularly, coaching is a skill set, and in theory you can coach anyone. But in reality,
do you really want to?
Yes, exactly. There will be some people you want to just shake. You know, the most patient, zen-like, mindfully practicing coach ever will still have some people who, you know, will just drive you wild, or just aren't a good fit for you, aren't ready for coaching, or there'll be some subjects that you find that you just light up inside when you're helping people with those subjects, and then there'll be others you're just like, ugh. So it's about helping coaches to explore that. And I have this analogy that great coaching's like alchemy. So when you're bringing your A game to it as a coach, and you're working with the right clients who are ready and who are a good fit for you, then when you bring those two elements together, it's something greater than the sum of its parts is created. Something magical happens. They're the clients that you just think, that elevated both of us there. Yeah. There are some clients you just think, I learned so much from it. It didn't even feel like work sometimes.
Yeah.
The clients get great outcomes. You're not having to push and push and push and push. And that's the spot that I help people to get to.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when you start attracting people to you. And that's when you start getting really great testimonials and word of mouth. And then from there, we can develop a very kind of authentic and heartfelt and fitting, or I say fitting, it's kind of bespoke designed plan to get your message out there and get you in front of people. So that might be about, do you want to focus on blogging? Do you want to focus on video? Do you want to focus on podcast? Do you want to do it face-to-face? Are you better if you meet people one-on-one? Are you better if you do people, meet people in groups and you like networking events? I think one of the blessings and the curses now about the fact that there's so much information out there for entrepreneurs and coaches is there are so many options. Yes. And so people feel that they have to do all of them.
Yes.
Actually, just doing 2 or 3 of them really well and consistently is far more effective. Otherwise,
it's a full-time job to market your business, and then you don't have time to see your clients.
Exactly. And I've been there, thinking like, I've got so many guest posts out, but I've got no clients.
But I'm producing so much content.
And I'm redoing my logo again, and all that stuff. So it's that's my approach. It's not flashy. It's not, like I say, I'm not a big fan of the hustle. If you want somebody who's really going to kick your ass and make you get out there and do it, that's not me. But what I do is I lovingly hold people to account, and I hold their hand and we work it out together, and we get people out there and we get them getting really good results that feel good. That feel good and make them some money. Because that's the fuel that keeps them able to do the work that they do.
Exactly. So how can other women entrepreneurs and coaches work with you? You've got a couple of different options and packages.
Yeah. I have a number of things. So the areas that I tend to work with people are on coaches who are in their first kind of 2 to 3 years of business. So they're out of coaching school. They're trying some things out, but maybe they're now ready to start having somebody have a bit of an expert look at their business. So you can book me for a one-off strategy session. Mm-hmm. So I have something called Sweet Clarity strategy sessions, because that's one of the kind of the first stages I think people find when they've been trying to DIY it for a while. And you get to the point where it's just like, I don't know what's working and what isn't. I know some of it is and some of it's not, but I don't know which or what I could be doing differently. So I work with people on kind of giving them some kind of strategy and some next steps and looking at what they can do. I also have a product called, or a package called Niche Relief, which is kind of, I call it fast-acting relief for stressed-out coaches who are stuck in that kind of WTF place. Because I think this whole idea of niching or niching, depending on how you pronounce it, I'm pronouncing it niche just because it goes well with the title. Really, I say niche. But this idea of, well, you should niche, but you don't know what to do it on. And so people tend to do this kind of, well, I'm just going to pick one out of the air and I have to pick one that nobody else is working with. So I will just work with 40-year-old unicyclers and, and I've been there, thinking, well, shall I work with mums? Shall I work with parents? Shall I work with single parents? Shall I work with single parents who like to eat sushi? Shall I? And actually the whole kind of niching thing is much more of an organic, evolving process about who do you work with best, who do you do your best work with, who's the best fit for you. And that's rarely something that's based on demographics, yes. I find.
It's based on experience. It's based on how much coaching have you done, who did you most enjoy, who did you not enjoy. It's not something that you can just flip through the book of niches and pick one out. I mean, you can, and that might be a good place for you to start, but then from there it's going to evolve.
Exactly. And I think coaches, particularly when they're starting out, they're quite, they're very resistant to the idea of niching because it feels very restrictive. And I think if you are just first starting out, then my advice to people is just go and coach whoever. Yeah. Do as much coaching as you can because that's how your niche will evolve. But when you want to start getting kind of paying clients and you want to start getting consistent paying clients, then you do need to narrow your message around the transformation that you help people with. Yes. And that's the thing that people kind of get caught up on. And actually, if you can focus on that, and you can focus on, this is how I help people. Because most people, unless you're in the coaching industry, they don't care what coaching is. They don't know what it is. They just want to know if you can help them. Yeah. They don't really care that much how you're going to do it, as long as you're going to stick electrodes to them.
So, is it going to be painful?
Exactly. And so coaches can spend an awful lot of time trying to explain their process to people. And that's a secondary concern, if it's a concern at all, for most people. They just want to know if you can help them. And what you can help them with. And so that's what Natural Relief does. It helps people, helps coaches particularly with that messaging piece. And then I have a 3-month package which is called Partner in Crime, which is all about, well, let's get you those all of those pieces in place and support you while you are starting to get yourself out there, starting to get comfortable with having a bit more visibility, get you an outreach kind of strategy. So you're getting your message out there in a consistent way, and so that I'm there to kind of walk alongside them and hold their hand and support them while they're getting all of those things set up to get into that next stage.
Excellent. So, Jo, speaking of coaching and how important coaching is, do you have any women business mentors or business coaches or any women entrepreneurs who inspire you that you'd like to mention?
Oh, I have a slew of them. I have loads. Tori Gentili, obviously, she was so pivotal in my business, and she is amazing. And the program that I did with her was called 10,000 Feet, but it's now called Quiet Power Strategy. And but it's the same program. She's just it just evolves. She's brilliant. Kate Courageous, or Kate Swoboda, is just such a lovely, lovely soul and voice of sanity within the coaching industry. She has a Courageous Coaching training program, which she started a couple of years ago. I've worked with Kate, and I just love her to bits. There's Laura Heacock, who runs Kind Over Matter. She's another coach, and she's very much focused on how you can use kindness in your everyday life. Self-kindness, kindness to others. And she, again, just has a really nice philosophy about it. I love Andrea Owen. Andrea has a very different energy to me, but I love her. You know, she has the Your Kick-Ass Life. She has a podcast and a website, and she's really high energy. And I love her, and her and I ran a course over the summer where we ran a group coaching program for coaches, and it was great. It was the best fun, and she just has such a no BS approach to things. She's great. And Rebecca Tracy as well, she's somebody else who, from The Uncaged Life. She does a lot of work with coaches and entrepreneurs, and again has this very kind of pragmatic, no BS, but very, I think, holistic and kind approach to doing business.
Excellent. Love it. And as one last thing before we kind of wind this up and sign off, would you like to tell us a little bit about your podcast?
I would love to. I have a podcast, and it went really nicely it was called the Work Happy Podcast. It's now called the Work Happy Coaching Podcast. And so there's still a lot of personal development stuff on there, but it's got more of a coaching focus. So I really enjoy having guests on to nerd out about coaching. And, there's lots of strategy that I share around how you can develop a coaching business. And by coaching business, I use that in quite a broad sense. So, I work with life coaches, health coaches, holistic practitioners, anyone that's kind of running a purpose-driven, I think, one-on-one service-based business. It comes out once every 2 weeks, because, doing it every week is a nice to have for me, but I just simply didn't have the time to do it. So I'd sooner do it every 2 weeks and get out a really nice episode for people. And it's really good fun. I would love people to email me, ask me any questions or anything that they would like featured on the podcast. I'm quite often into answering emailed in questions on there. Yeah, it's good fun. If you like coaching, if you like nerding out on that type of thing, you're amongst friends.
Good. So, Jo, where can people find you online?
They can go to jocasey.com, and that is my kind of home base and my website. That has my blog on there, that has links to the podcast, that has information on how you can work with me. But you can also connect with me on Facebook. I have a private Facebook mastermind on there called the Coaches Collective, which is just full of lovely souls who are all, on a similar journey and similar path. And if you're a coach or you're thinking about coaching and you would like to come join that, then come and send me a membership request for that. There's details about that on my website as well, how you can do that. It's free. I'm in there every day, probably more than I really should be for my the amount of sleep I'm meant to be getting. But I just love it, and it's such a lovely community of people who are fellow travellers.
I like that. Thank you so much for joining us today. It was such a pleasure to have you back on the show.
Oh, thank you for having me. I always love talking to you.
Oh, good. We should do this more often.
We should.
Well, thank you for listening. And remember to visit readytobloom.com/121 for the show notes on this episode. Thank you.
Thanks so much for listening to the Ready to Bloom podcast with your host, Holly Wharton. You can find more information about today's guests, including links for topics that were discussed at readytobloom.com. That's ready, 2, bloom.com. And if you enjoyed this episode, please remember to head over to iTunes and leave us a quick review of this podcast. Thank you so much.